Okay, we are live.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the March 2025 Traffic and Transportation Committee meeting. We have a pretty packed agenda tonight. First, we're starting with the discussion on local laws around e-bikes. Then we have an open dining application, um, as well as open street applications. And this, I think, three of those on the agenda tonight. So, honestly, without further ado, Josephine, let's start with the first local law review.
Okay, so the first item on the agenda is Intro 0606 of 2024. Council member Robert Holden's office um, reached out to us via email, asked if we could present this to the Traffic and Transportation Committee to see if there were any questions or comments that we'd like to provide to the city council on this. It's a local law that would require bicycles with electric assist, electric scooters, and other legal motorized vehicles to be licensed and registered in New York City. Each bicycle would be registered with New York City DOT and required to have a distinctive identification number, which must be conspicuously displayed on the rear of the vehicle. I think most of the members, council members representing CB10, have signed on to this. I don't know if there's someone from Councilman Holden's office on. If you could just use the hand raise function, hold on a second. Yeah. Okay, Bill Doherty, you could speak. Hello?
Hi, sorry, I was
Okay, yes, here
my
you
Zoom
are.
was funking around. Um, yeah, so um, Intro 606 is Robert Holden's bill, as was said. Um, yeah, we're trying to get this bill passed. We're very passionate about it. We're I guess let me introduce myself first. I'm Will Doherty. I'm the council member's legislative director. Um, one of the problems that we've been facing with this bill is right now, even though we have enough support in the council itself, and support from the mayor, we don't have support from the speaker, who is currently, she hasn't spoken out against it, but she's not currently for it. We're not really sure why. She hasn't really told us that. So what we've decided to do is we want to go to all the community boards in the city and get as many community boards input as possible, and if possible, get letters of support, bring it to the speaker, and say, look, this bill is not only popular in the council, but it is popular in the city. So yeah, I'm glad you guys are having this conversation. And I'll just be really here to answer any questions. Although the actual bill is very short, the questions, I feel they never cease to be coming in. Couple quick FAQs I think I could cover. Um, uh, Electric wheelchairs, other, electric motorized handicapped vehicles, I guess is the best way to describe them. They would not be required to have a license plate. Um, this would be distributed by Department of Transportation. How that would be done would be up to Department of Transportation. How much the license plates would cost, that would also be up to Department of Transportation. Um, People often have questions about why we leave so much up to the Department of Transportation. It's kind of a council policy to let the administrations really have a lot of leeway on how they would do things and how much things would cost. Some council members don't like doing that. They like to really give the administration exact details of what to do. This bill, we wanted to defer to the experts with, how to distribute the license plates, how much to make them cost, things like that. Um, the biggest one is who would be enforcing this. The NYPD would be involved. That we get a lot of pushback on from certain communities on the license plates and the fact that the NYPD would be involved. But given it's a law and it's on roads and laws get broken, the NYPD has to be involved. Some people do see this as like just another reason for the police to stop you. Um, my argument that I usually use against that is just I think that's a greater conversation to have about the police, not about e-bikes. Um, but what we find that this would be best for with um, enforcement is cameras, speed cameras, because right now, you get story after story of somebody getting hit by an e-bike and that e-bike driver making a snap decision of if I just ride away, no one is going to catch me, or my chances of being caught are significantly higher. And they are because what they're on is a black e-bike or a city bike, and usually they don't have distinguishing marks on these bicycles, except for the manufacturing serial number, which is very tiny. And with the license plates, the chances of being caught on camera is exponentially increased. Um, yeah, I think I covered most of the FAQs we get. Oh, the other one is there are no other cities in America that does this. We would be the first. Um, we also the other one is why not the state? The DMV is the big license plate organization. Why not make the DMV do this? We agree. We think the state should be doing this, but the state isn't doing this. There has been a bill or two introduced in the Senate. Um, they've gone nowhere. So we want to step up when the state has decided not to. I will say about this kind of rule, it's very common in Europe. It's started in Copenhagen, actually, was really where it began. Um, Denmark passed a bunch of laws regulating e-bikes. They require licenses and license plates. We would not require licenses. Denmark and the Netherlands are the two countries we really like to pull from. They saw major decreases in injuries and deaths, mainly involved actually with the e-bike rider themselves, which is interesting. But yeah, I hope I'll answer any more questions that I can to my best ability, but those are the common ones I like to cover. So yeah.
Okay, thanks, Will. I see a question from Chris.
Thanks, Jack. The 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 intent of the licensing is, I guess, to promote safety, correct? I mean, I mean, what I'm getting at is that I'm aware of, more than one community program that actually uses, some of their resources as part of community events to promote bicycle safety, not e-bike specifically, but bicycle safety. And they do that in partnership with the New York Police Department, and they'll do things like not license plates, but bike etching, so that if your bike is stolen, it can be retrieved. Young people are given bike helmets, and so there's a whole community process around that. I I I think it's admirable, and I think it's a good idea that there's some sort of licensing that takes place if it's connected to, if it's connected to that goal of community promoting safety for everyone in the community, and in particular for the e-bike rider. My father's neighbor was actually hit broadsided by an e-bike, and the person got up and sped away, and the neighbor was actually shocked because he was more concerned for the bike rider's physical well-being, and he took off. And so I think there's kind of a piece there that it would be great if the bikes are licensed, but if it's also connected to, promoting safety for all pedestrians and motorists involved. I think that's only a good thing. It only helps, in the street equity, in the sharing of the roads between bikes and motorists and everything else. So it's not really a question, but it is. Um, it's just my expression of, gratitude for Councilman Holden introducing something like this, and I hope that it kind of evolves into something like that to make the streets safer and promote safety for the e-bike riders themselves. So thank you.
Okay. Any others on the committee?
Steve?
Yeah, is there any requirement for insurance in order to get this? People are hurt very, very seriously by these. And up till now, I believe that there's not much way of helping them after they've been hurt. I think that you can probably get an e-bike at this point insured by adding a rider to your homeowner's insurance. And it's not terribly expensive, but I am a little bit concerned about, the license plates is a great idea. I absolutely support it. But I think that maybe this is an opportunity to go a little bit further.
Yeah, so what I'll say to that is, just to answer the question very basically, this bill would not require any liability insurance, anything like that. But what we have been finding is that's a very common question. And, and my other response to that is if we want to promote as much safety and as much, you get hit, that person, we want to fix the problem. And yeah, the problem is these, sometimes an e-bike just scratches on a car and the guy drives away, and that sucks. And then sometimes it hits somebody and it causes serious brain injuries, serious spinal injuries. And, and that is certainly something we need to explore is expanding on this, this entire concept, right? That e-bikes are new for most people and they're great in a lot of ways. Personally, I'm not an e-bike rider. I'm a walker. But it's, we need to, understand the relationship between the cars and the pedestrians and e-bikes and other cyclists and everything in between. And yeah, we really have been finding that we didn't really think about it. And a lot of the community boards have been bringing up of requiring insurance for e-bike drivers. So yeah, that's definitely something we can look into, and certainly we are starting to get into.
If I can just follow up on that, I find it a little bit odd that if I hit somebody while I'm riding my bicycle, which I don't frequently hit them, but I do ride my bike a lot, I will point out that my homeowner's insurance covers me because it's a non-motorized vehicle. It just seems to me that there's a gap here. Okay, and because these are motorized vehicles. So I think that while you're doing this, you should also be thinking about the fact that when people are hurt by them, and they will continue to be hurt, even if they have licenses, that's something that I'm very concerned about.
I know we have a bunch of hands raised and we have a long agenda. So Jack, I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, Stephanie, I saw your hand go up first.
Yes, just wanted some clarification on a couple of things, please. The statement that you had in your slide, it said that licenses have to be conspicuously displayed. It also said that the bikes with the option of don't need licenses, or license plates. Which is it?
I'm sorry, you kind of cut out. I couldn't really understand the question.
The statement on your slide said that license plates or license numbers they have to be conspicuously displayed, but your chart also shows that only mopeds need licenses or license plates. Which are all vehicles supposed to be licensed with numbers, or only the mopeds?
Oh, so yeah, currently under New York state law, mopeds and motorcycles are required to have license plates. E-bikes are this weird quasi thing, that they're not bicycles, they're e-bikes, and then the federal government separated them in three classes of speed and power, which, after reading a whole lot of e-bike legislation from a lot of countries, it's actually kind of a very outdated system, but that's not for here nor there. Currently, e-bikes, they're not required to have license plates. They're only required to follow certain battery and power laws. And that's almost impossible to enforce unless somebody stops you. If a cop stops you randomly and asks, let me test your battery, which they don't know how to do. But it would be much easier to enforce because these batteries, they're really not supposed to make the e-bikes go faster than 25 miles an hour, but they often can and they
Sorry.
often do.
So let's so the direct question was, will e-bikes need to have licenses conspicuously displayed?
Yes, license
Okay.
plates. Yeah, no
Right, so
licenses though.
show the existing. This is,
I'm sorry, Stephanie, if
Okay.
we're losing your connection.
oh, thank you.
If you want, you can type in your a question in the chat. Maybe that'll be easier. Joe, please go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. So this is, I think, from what I hear from people I speak to in the community, this is a really big issue in Dyker Heights, Bay Ridge, regarding e-bikes and an insurance policy, to the board member who was speaking earlier, maybe fall under the liability of a homeowner's policy. But once you get to a motorized vehicle, like a motorcycle, that would be a separate policy. And they are very inexpensive, to your point. We're not talking about a great deal of money of having an insurance policy on a motorized vehicle. Now, Tesla, or I don't want to say the name Tesla, but any electric car is a car. They have to have insurance. Even though they're electric, they still have to have insurance. And a motorcycle, whether it's an engine or a battery, should also have insurance, enforcement, maybe even be registered. People, these electric vehicles are zipping through the neighborhood at all sorts of speeds, not paying attention to the traffic laws. So while I see that this bill being presented forward does move us in some sort of the right direction, I just would like to see this get expedited and really taking into account, all the elements of, what this e-bike can do on the road, and especially, injuring people. And I just think we should be moving a little bit faster on the legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Larry? Larry, you're muted.
Larry, you're muted.
No, I know this has been a long time coming, and I know for many years I've been railing against the recklessness of bicycles and e-bikes. It's enough time to say, as a pedestrian and a motorist, they're extremely reckless. I mean, after it's just a start. We have to educate bicyclists just the way motorists have to take an exam. I think this is just the beginning. It's just a start. But I'm saying it's just bicyclists are run the course. They go against traffic. They go through lights. They go through pedestrians. You almost get killed. Anybody else in the whole neighborhood has always had this case. Either making deliveries or just riding around for pleasure. It's just it's a long time coming, and as I say, this is just a start. We should really clamp down on this recklessness of these bicycles in the neighborhood.
There's some hands in the room, but I can't really see that.
Just Dino. Dino, I see your hand. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the screen. Yeah, I see. Did you?
Yeah, so
All right,
I'm
I'm
not
sorry.
exactly sure how this is supposed to help out with safety. Like anything that goes over 28 miles an hour already has to be registered. Running red lights is already illegal. Speeding is already illegal. Not that e-bikes can go, over the speed limit. So the thing with the speed cameras is kind of like irrelevant in this situation. This really does fall on the NYPD, and they're just, lack of enforcement, their own recklessness. You go outside of any precinct, you see obscured license plates, you see placard abuse. People double park in bike lanes all the time, whether they're protected or unprotected. NYPD does absolutely nothing about that. So now we're going to tack on this too for enforcement, which I think that it's just going to be selectively abused to target certain vulnerable communities like it has been in the past. It's just to expand police powers. It's another form of stop and frisk. And just because somebody has a license plate doesn't mean that you identify the person operating the vehicle. Just like with cars, you don't, when you get a speeding ticket from a camera, it's $50 unless you get stopped by an actual police officer that can identify you. So just identifying the vehicle itself doesn't identify the person who did whatever wrong he is being accused of. Additionally, all these anecdotes of people saying, you know, oh, I was almost hit by an e-bike rider, as someone who rides my bike every single day, the amount of pedestrians that are not paying attention, that are on their phones, that are waiting in the bike lane to just cross the street. They don't hear the bells. They don't hear me screaming at them. It's every single day. So I don't know how many of these people were almost hit because the e-bike rider or the bicyclist was doing something wrong or because they weren't paying attention. I don't want to victim blame, but I think, you know, being aware of your surroundings is just generally good for everybody. So that's.
All right, thank you. Staley?
Yeah, so I also think that this is absolutely the wrong solution to a legitimate problem. The problem is a legitimate problem, but I don't see what this will accomplish. So mopeds are already required to have license plates. I very rarely see a moped with a license plate on it because that law is not enforced by the police. I don't see why asking e-bikes to have license plates. I don't see why they would enforce that if they're not already enforcing the law with mopeds. As Larry and Joseph pointed out, e-bikes can be a problem because they run red lights, they ride on the sidewalks, they go in the wrong direction. All of those things are already illegal. The NYPD could ticket them for all of those things, but they don't, right? So I don't really see what this accomplishes except to create a bureaucracy within the Department of Transportation and to spend money that I think could be spent in better ways, right? As Chris was pointing out, educational programs would be a better way to spend this money. Maybe giving money for increased enforcement in our parks, you know, better funding our parks police so that they can enforce the rules that already exist inside the parks, right? I think there are a lot of things that the city council could spend money on rather than creating a bureaucracy to issue licenses that will ultimately have no effect whatsoever.
Thank you. Jack, in the interest of time, and we have a room full of people here, could we table this to the latter part of the meeting so we could go through our applications next? I don't want to spur it, but we do have a lot of people here.
Yeah, that's fine. I think it's
Right.
worth a healthy discussion.
I would just ask, you know, William, is there a timeline for us to give you our feedback or write questions, you know, to you?
Questions, you could send them. You have my email. You can send them to me anytime.
Okay.
We don't have a timeline right now. We're just I'm going to be meeting with community
Doing
boards
outreach. Okay.
for weeks. So yeah, I'll keep you guys posted if a timeline does appear, though. So
Okay, great. Thank you so
all right.
much. If that's
All right,
okay
thank
with
you, everybody.
everyone. Okay, thanks.
Have a great night.
You too. Okay. So the next item on the agenda is Mussels and More. It is a restaurant right here down the street, owned and operated by Jim Bantis. Jim is present in the room. He has applied for both a roadway cafe and a sidewalk cafe on 80th Street. He previously held a license for an unenclosed sidewalk cafe before the Department of Transportation program started during COVID. There has been only one 311 noise complaint in the last 5 years, so there are really been no issues reported. The layout of his roadway cafe is simply on 80th Street. And let's see, the application is for a 32-foot by 8-foot setup with 5 tables and 20 seats. The layout of the sidewalk cafe, the application is for a 30-foot by 7-foot setup with 10 tables and 20 seats. His hours of operation are Sunday through Saturday, Sunday through Thursday, noon to 11 p.m., Friday, noon to midnight, and Saturday from noon to midnight. So I'm going to stop my share a minute, turn it back to you, Jack. That's the
Okay.
application.
So just some clarifying questions before we turn into the committee. So you had the sidewalk cafe already before the pandemic, and have had it since then. Have you had the roadway cafe during the pandemic at all?
Yes, CC.
Yes, okay. And then in terms of layout from the pandemic era, sidewalk and roadway cafes. Has the layout in terms of number of tables, chairs changed in this application?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'll open up to the committee for questions, comments. I see Doris, you have your hand up.
I just need a clarification. It was not clear to me from the schematic what the sidewalk clearance was after the sidewalk cafe. How much space is there for people to pass? I did not see a measurement.
8 feet.
Jim answered 8 feet, Doris.
Okay, thank you.
Carmen had a question?
Was a little bit segue into a different. When you have to take the shed down, what's the process for that? Do you have to store it somewhere? Do you have room to? I just always wondered about that because it just seemed like a big
Get a
production.
couple of contractors, we unscrew it, and we store it in the basement.
Okay. I just wanted to know. Okay.
Very simple.
Doris, you have your hands up again?
Oh, I didn't put it down. Apologies.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions, comments for this
Steve?
application?
Yeah, it was about a year ago. Forgive me, I can't remember exactly when it was. I live on 79th Street. I was coming down 80th to swing around, and there was a small band that was playing outside. Yeah, I don't think that's permitted, is that?
Was it during the stroll?
No, no,
It's
no,
permitted.
no, it wasn't during the stroll. It was on a typical Friday or Saturday, I forget what it was.
Saturday afternoons.
Is it-
Go past 7 o'clock.
No, but is it inside your establishment?
It's outside.
Outside.
It's permitted.
Sound permit?
I'm not sure. Amplified sound on the street bed requires a permit from NYPD. The actual roadway cafe, it wasn't in the roadway
No,
cafe,
it was on sidewalk.
but in the sidewalk cafe?
I think
It was someone that was on the corner, like standing there. And I think there was two of them or three of them.
I don't want to misspeak, but for your sake, I think we should find that, we'll ask that question and get an answer for you. If that's a routine
Yeah.
thing, just so if you,
Once a month.
once a month.
No,
It's 3
Oh.
months out of the year.
Yep.
And I haven't had one complaint in 5 years.
No, it's not an issue of complaint,
Complaint at
it's
all.
just an issue of what the regulation.
Clients.
Difficult to make a living in the first place. And that's one of the few days I do make some money.
okay, but if it's a question of regulation, that's all.
I'll find that out. I'll find
Probably.
out.
Well, it's also
Okay.
protection because if you have a pretty good record, one day you'd be playing music that somebody doesn't like and then the complaints come in. You don't want those complaints against you.
I'll call it, once I get complaints, I'll shut it down, I promise.
Oh, no, they'll pull.
Well, we already heard of one complaint from 301, right? So I don't want that being an issue moving
I
forward.
think what I bring
Right.
to the community is more valuable than what I don't bring to the community. I make people happy.
So,
Understood.
Yeah.
So, Saley, you had
That's it.
yeah.
Yeah, I had a question, and it might be, so at the end of the the roadway cafe, on 80th Street, there's a fire hydrant, right? How much clearance do you have between the fire hydrant and
It's
your
supposed to be
roadway cafe?
15 feet.
Okay, so I know that that's the law, and this has come up before with some of the other applications. I think that 15-foot clearance, I feel sort of like uncomfortable with that. And the reason is that I think what happens when you have the roadway cafe, and then a fire hydrant and then the end of the street, is that little pocket becomes the spot where delivery drivers park, becomes the spot where people park to go into your restaurant. This is not your fault at all, but this is what we've seen in other roadway cafes. I would feel better if there was more clearance with the fire hydrant too. I think it's inevitable that people are going to try to park in that little pocket. And I just want to make sure the fire hydrant remains reasonably clear.
With all due respect, it wouldn't work operationally for me. There's a tree towards the back part of the outside cafe or the roadway cafe. That wouldn't allow people to go in and out of the, if you ask me for more. Right now,
How long is it right now? I'm sorry. The,
15 feet from the hydrant.
no, I mean the cafe part.
5, 10 feet, 8, 16, 20, 32 feet. It's 5 pieces of 5 pieces of wood, so it's 8 times 5. So it's 8, 16, 21, 24. 8, 16, 24, 30, 40 feet, sorry. Number CPA.
Stephanie, did you have your hand raised?
Yes, I just wanted to echo Staley's concerns because we have seen, or I have seen, that the hydrant on the corner where there is a roadway cafe tends to invite vehicles. And just wanted to reiterate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say that on this block of Fifth Avenue, the hydrant is actually located in the bump out in the
That's
neck
right.
down in the in the neck, and that the Department of Transportation, this is in their rules and regulations, and ultimately they have approval of it, and if it's their guideline, 15 feet of their guideline, they're going to permit it. It's just, you know, they're going to permit it. And we could comment about it, but at the end of the day, it's licensee. I see no other questions.
Sorry, are there any other questions?
No.
Okay. And this is one application combined together, it seems like. Do we need to approve it together, or can we look at individual sidewalk cafe? And
We
roadway
have
cafe?
to do it separately.
Okay, all right. So
They came together.
yeah, that's why I was asking a question. So let's put the sidewalk cafe up for a vote first. All in favor to approve this with the standard stipulations, please raise your hand.
Joe?
Hold on.
Are you yes or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Any
Okay.
opposed? Staley, one opposed. Any abstentions? Abstention?
Yeah.
One abstention. Okay, Jack?
All right, Doris, was that an abstention or was that an approval?
No, that was my approval. I just took my hand down.
Great, thank you. All right, for the roadway cafe, I will also put that up for a vote here. Approve this with the standard stipulations. Everyone in favor, please raise your hand. I count 4 on the screen. How many in the room?
And one in the room.
Okay. Any no's?
2.
I count
What is-
4.
Three.
including Joe.
Opposed.
opposed.
Opposed, sorry.
Right.
Opposed, I count 4. It was Doris, Staley, Stephanie, Joe,
And Steve.
and
Alright.
Steve, sorry. Your hand
Okay,
was small
so-
on my screen.
Alright,
Any
so-
recusals?
Okay.
I think that was a no, right?
No, it's 5-4, right? Was it 5-4? So motion carries, right? Is it 5-4? I'm sorry.
There's one more.
I thought that was a no. Let's do a
Vote
recount.
again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay. All in favor, please raise your hand.
in favor. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. I'm so confused. 1, 2, 3, 4. Joe, you 4 or against? 4? No, I can't. I can't hear you.
No, I'm not for.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 in favor.
Any opposed?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay. Any abstentions or recusals? Please raise your hand.
I think maybe we missed Joe again.
We
I
missed
saw it go
Joe.
up after you counted.
No, you did not.
No, okay.
Okay,
5-4.
5-4. Joe didn't.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Sorry about that, everyone. The next agenda item is a discussion regarding the use of standard stipulations. I'm not sure exactly what the details of this one are, Josephine.
So Jack, during the summer months, we used standard stipulations, which we all voted upon. DOT is really moving forward with expediting their applications, and we only have a 30-day window to approve or deny or review. So the question was asked of us, if we don't have enough time in between meetings, if there's not enough time between board meetings, could we administratively use the standard stipulations to not prevent the applicant from moving forward in the process, and we could always invite them to come back to meet the committee. So that was a question. If there's not enough time, can the district office have the applicant sign a standard stipulation agreement so that we don't hold back their application, as we did during the summer months? I don't know if we want to talk about it now, or you want to wait till the end, or
I just want to ask one thing, Jen, just before we move forward. So the previous applications that we have approved, I know I raised this offline to you as well. The DOT, like, how many have they actually moved forward with the approvals that we have given? I know there was a comment around like provisional approvals and the use of roadways and sidewalk cafes, right? Can you give a little bit details about that question raised offline?
Yeah, so what we've had is we've had 12 applications for roadway and outdoor dining throughout the district. Of those, every application has been processed by DOT. All of the roadway applications have had hearings. DOT has, in my conversation with them yesterday and today, has said that any sidewalk application that was active during COVID that had a temporary license can continue to operate until they receive their physical license. All roadway cafes that have gone through the application and approval process and will have a conditional permission to begin their process, of setting up. Those that have not gone through the process for the roadways are going to have to wait, but they're looking at providing conditional approvals to those. I don't know what that looks like. Staley and I were talking about that before the beginning of the meeting, but they're really working on expediting the approvals. So we've had 12 with Muscles and More today. We expect to only have maybe 2 or 3 more that I'm aware of that are in the process.
Okay, thank you. I just see Doris, you just have your hand raised. If you want to have a quick comment here.
Yeah, I think this is a way for the DOT to try to remove the community boards from any input.
No, well, they still require the input. My only question,
But I
Doris,
think they're trying to reduce our input.
I think that's a separate thing. This is a request. Okay, we'll come back to it.
Oh,
I think
we'll come back to it.
open
Okay.
space.
All right, very good. So we'll move to the next application. Okay, this is an open street application for PSIS 104 Annex. PSIS 104 has applied to the Department of Transportation for a full street closure of 89th Street between 4th and 5th Avenue between the hours of 10 a.m. and 12:25 p.m. from April 28, 2025 to June 26, 26. The open street request is to facilitate outdoor recess for the students in its annex at 415 89th Street. The annex holds classes for kindergarten and first grade and does not have a dedicated yard or other outdoor space for the children. CB10 did receive concerns from local residents about the cleanliness of the street, as well as safety concerns about the commercial auto businesses that operate on the street, several curb cuts with vehicles going in and out of driveways throughout the day. So that is the application. And just to explain to board members, the Department of Transportation has approved this, is asking for comments from the community board. I want to share with you that I did speak to the 68th precinct. I know Captain DeSaro is on the line. The precinct also expressed concerns of safety for this particular street and roadway due to the auto businesses and the number of curb cuts on the street. The applicant is here, the principal. I don't know if you want to say a few words about the application.
Just that, these are our youngest children in the school. There is absolutely no space for them to have any outdoor recess or even inside. We have no gym, no cafeteria space for them to have recess, no auditorium. It is a leased building that we operate in, and it's not ideal for the kids at all. And we get a lot of community complaints from parents that, it's just not ideal for learning.
Thank you. Jack, did you want to open up to questions from board members first? And then we have members
Yes.
of the public who are here as well.
All right, if you have a question, comment, please raise your hand. Okay, I see Doris first.
Did the DOT do any traffic studies or any other studies of the conditions at that site, and did they provide that to us?
No. Oh, I don't know if they did any studies, but they didn't provide that information to us. It's just a one-page notification that we received.
And then my second question, this originally was an administrative office for District 20 to open up space where they were using classrooms in a school, and to open up the school for more classrooms. And now it's been turned into classrooms without any consideration of the impact or how effective this was for children.
That's
just a concern, not a question.
classrooms have been there since the opening of the building as an early childhood center.
Right, but it
a
was
shared
just pre-K,
space
right?
No, it was always
You see that?
kindergarten, and first grade for our building.
Mhm.
We also shared the space initially with 185 when they were overcrowded, but they've lost enrollment, so their building is now all in one building. We opened that space as well for 264, PS 264, when they were opening their new building, but now it's just solely our annex students. And with the reduced class size law that they're implementing, the space is necessary, but it's been a classroom that the building shares it with the administrative side, so they have their own entrance and the school side has their own entrance.
Okay, Stephanie?
Yes, have the owners of the auto businesses been consulted? I mean, are they expected to suspend business during those 2 hours every day, or how would that be accommodated? What is the plan?
We did speak to the two businesses that we were asked to speak to on the end of the block. We did agree to close off the block like beyond the entrance, the last driveway of one of the businesses that we were asked to speak to accommodate like from the halfway down. But it would require, safety measures from the beginning of the block since it is a one-way street.
Which way? Which way?
It goes up towards Fifth Avenue. Mhm.
Sorry, just to clarify, like what was their response when you spoke to them?
They said that they would agree to that.
Okay.
We're here or not?
Right. There are several of the businesses that are here. Owners
Okay.
that we'll
I see there's a
finish
couple
with,
other.
right, yeah, we'll finish with Carmen, board members, and then we'll go to the businesses who are here.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is April 28th, 2025 through June 26th, 2026. The first thing that comes to mind is we should go from April to June to see how this works. Because a lot of times, it's easy for a school to kind of override the residents and the businesses, and then they're the ones that are really giving up a lot. They're giving up their way of life, people with cars damaged and all this other stuff. I think it should be like April to June, the summer's already gone, that time's up. And then I don't want to say reapply in September, but just for our sake and the residents and the businesses, kind of give them all like a little test pack. Because even when somebody's doing a job, they're on probation, almost like, let's see how this works out.
Okay.
Unfairness,
because Doris, you had your hand raised again?
I mean, this is in the center of the only fully commercial district in the city. And I think it's a dangerous choice for the school, and I think and it's a very, very busy area. I think we need to reconsider it. We need to consider it carefully. And we have to remember when we've approved the use of side streets for schools, it has been problematic in the past and usually rescinded.
Joe?
Okay.
Joe, do you have a question?
Yeah, yes, I do. I'm lowering my hand, starting my video. So I agree by saying that this is a dangerous choice to have or to choose. With all the businesses of cars on the same block, with the schools. This really should be rethought. And, to the principal, I agree with her as well. Where she has the annex and the kids going to school, that really shouldn't be utilized as a place to teach children. They should give her a full a school with a backyard and kids can go out and play. That's something for a different day. But
Right. And it's coming. I mean, there's going to be a school on the corner developed, K-5, the Santander site. It's supposed to be. I don't know. That's
okay. But this is something that should be, brought back to the drawing board and thought about again.
Okay. We have representatives of businesses here. Do you want to just introduce yourselves and go around?
Jack Gross, I'm the owner of GNF Autos on the corner, first business on the block, and it goes further, then goes into Transit and Bay Ridge Honda, Mazda Honda, and all further. Like I said, I have to have a customer pull in. Have a couple of customers are handicaps, they have to pull into my place. I said they could reach up to a certain point of my door, but you cannot close the street off. That's my suggestion. But up further, there's other businesses there too, so I don't want to say my door and go and blocking their doors. So that can't happen. That's me.
I just want to be clear that when you have an open street, the entire street is shut down. From the beginning of the street to the end. It's not a half a street, it's right, it's the whole street.
Accept it.
Okay.
I would not accept it.
I just wanted to be clear
Yeah,
on
if
that.
it's the whole street being shut down,
That's
I
the
cannot
program.
do it
Yeah.
unless the community and the school board wants to pay my rent and pay for my businesses. They're more than welcome to shut down. I'll shut the door down for that hours.
Okay. We'll go around.
Same concern. I think it was presented to us that half the block would be patrolled where we could obviously use it and pull out of the other direction. But to close down the entire street is tough. I mean, there's multiple businesses operating. It's not just one business. And then I'm imagining that it would be temporary because, as you just said, the Santander site they're already discussing with us their construction of their school. So I don't think that kids are ever going to go outside while that construction is going to begin. I mean, you're going to have cranes and a full operation outside. There's no way kids are going to be playing outside. And of course, we're worried about it. Of course, the safety of it also. They're operational businesses. There's kids outside. Nobody wants to be involved to God forbid anything else happening and then having a problem with it. And as far as being consulted, I know that I myself or the owners from my understanding were not consulted prior to it. I mean, obviously we would have jumped up immediately and said, hey, how are we going to shut down our businesses for multiple hours per day? I don't want to be the combatant of it because listen, we're community members and just, we do everything possible that we can and positive in the community. And we don't want to do anything that's negative to community. We even discussed it, everything that's above us, of course, there's 3 other schools in the neighborhood. Is there some way that they could possibly share the facilities with another school? Yeah, like I said, and I know the building well because we're stationed right there. And I agree with, I think it was Joe that was saying, obviously it's not meant to be a school. And I come from a whole household of educators between my wife, my entire family. My wife's an assistant principal at another school in Staten Island. So
But we did consult,
completely
I just
understand.
wanted to clarify, we did consult Honda and we did consult this gentleman as well.
I
I just want to also say that the comment about the half street was discussed with Open Streets, and that was what we said that we would agree to, and they did not have an issue with that.
But it's saying that there is no such thing as half street.
No,
And I've said
I'm
that-
going to say to you that the program is the entire street. Half a street to me is even more dangerous. I can't wrap my head around that.
We were more along by half the street because then that would mean we're pulling out in the opposite direction.
Right.
Which without
That-
say Precinct and Captain John, I mean, listen, without somebody there, if Captain John DeCero says that he's gonna monitor it, he's gonna have somebody there on the corner that's directing vehicles out and directing traffic into Fourth Avenue, it's a different story. But
Right.
now we're being told that's not even an option. I mean, you're basically talking about shutting down complete businesses for 3 hours a day.
No.
It's.
We also have schools.
It's not 3 hours either. I just want to clarify. That's just, you're arbitrarily just saying now.
I've-
now.
so
That's
the
wasn't
exact-
3 hours.
so the exact time frame.
10 to
10 to 12:25.
It's 10:15 to 12:25. That's not 3 hours.
So when 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Okay, so 2 hours.
3 hours.
Were there any other business owners that haven't introduced themselves?
Anyone?
They also shut down the street is another thing that kills us, the buses. 2 o'clock.
Right.
Pull in when the pickup is at a little later, but They
I
pull
can't
in at 2
control
o'clock.
buses. I don't control what time the buses come. I
Yeah.
have nothing, that would be Office of People Transportation. I
Yeah,
don't
it's,
control.
It's not an argument pertaining to buses or what you control, we control. Obviously, we can't control that. Our business is there. Remember, the businesses were there way before the school was. The school was added. Originally, it was administrative. Then the school came and the school was added, and then the buses came and the shutdown of the street. And now we're talking about actually shutting down the street. I mean, we operate already and trying to move around while the street is shut down, while the bus is there. None of this is your fault. And like I said, I don't want to be the one in the room that's combating
Right,
in any way,
Okay.
because everything you're saying is 100%.
Okay.
We did
Okay.
take off the
All right.
business.
So there's some board members that do have questions. Larry, you've had your hand up for some time.
Yeah, has everyone thought about up on the roof? Would they have a area up on the roof of the school?
No. No, there's no outdoor play.
On the roof, there's nothing, it's not an option.
I think too, what's concerning for this committee is we also had another school where we viewed video of children at play, and there were many parent and supervisors there, and neighbors provided video of children walking up driveways unattended, and it was frightening to see. In the case of this street on 89th Street, you know, a half a street block with the number of curbs, you know, that school no longer operates. You know, we've had instances where we've had, you know, terrible things happen with cars driving up onto sidewalks, using driveways. So that's a lot of the safety concerns that we've experienced in the past to share with you as well. Jack, our role here today is to provide comments to the Department of Transportation. I know Captain DeSara was on the line. I don't know if he wanted to add anything or not, but I do know that the precinct did express some concerns as well on the
Josephine, I'm on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Hi. So just to add just to your concerns, it really just boils around a lot of things that was discussed already. Is primarily the driveways and the cuts in the street. You know, when you go up to 4th Avenue and 89th Street, God forbid somebody was to lose eyes on a single kid. I mean, it's just all cuts in the curb along 4th Avenue going into 7-Eleven. Then on the other side going on.
Oh my gosh.
Going on to 89th Street. It's rough over there. Plus, I believe there's a transit hub in the area, if I'm not mistaken, that requires servicing. And again, just the car dealerships. And also with this particular area, if the Verrazano Bridge closes for any reason, if the top level closes, it causes extreme congestion. Just being that close to 92nd Street, there always becomes a big backup with the trucks in the area. And it just kind of makes conditions worse over there. So I know it's a sensitive issue because it does deal with the kids, but you know, just to the gentleman's point before, the 6-8 wouldn't be able to, you know, provide personnel to cover this ever, and we'd be spread very, very thin already. So those are just our concerns about it.
Does the 68 precinct coordinate with the school in the case that this does go through, in case of traffic backups, or if the Verrazano closes, to not, you know, do recess on a given day or not do recess over the course of a given period if we know that the roads are going to be shut down in such a way that would impact traffic?
So we would have to coordinate. Usually when something like that happens, we have to coordinate with an entire area. You know, a lot of people start to have issues with the traffic conditions when the Verrazano, the top level especially, would, you know, closes the trucks whenever the wind gets a little out of hand. So the whole area becomes impacted by it. It's not just the one block. You know, it's something the council members' offices expressed concern about before. So, you know, it's something that could be explored for a conversation, but, you know, like I said, to dedicate resources to the one street, no, I wouldn't be able to do that.
All right, thank you.
Josephine, just another comment regarding, and I know we keep saying car dealerships. I mean, we recently acquired another building on the block that was a gym previously. We're exploring possibly opening up another gym there. You know, my other question is, obviously we can't drive back and forth on the street, but my other fear would be that if we operate a business there that is open to the public, if anybody is walking up to the gym or going in, would it be shut down that now they can walk up to the gym? And now if it is not shut down, I mean, just as a father, I'm asking the question of, are we going to allow residents or people or anybody to walk up and down freely on a sidewalk that children are playing in the middle of the street with 2, 3, 4,
that's a
5
good question. The
60 kids, that
sidewalks remain open. Yeah.
I mean, listen, if my own child was outside playing and you don't know if that person is walking into the gym, a stranger or anything else, we're just gonna leave kids outside, open to the environment where somebody can pick somebody up, God forbid, and this can become a horror story. That's why I'm saying, like, I know that we're saying that business owners were were discussed with or here, I don't think anybody really fully thought this through because, like I said, this is not a good idea in any way, shape, or form. And I was waiting for Captain Sarah to say this because listen, I'm leaning on obviously 6-8 recent year of what are they able to provide here of security for multiple different reasons besides curb cuts and everything else. What about the safety of the children that are playing in the middle of the street in our neighborhood here? You know, it's not some enclosed schoolyard here. You're talking about one of the busiest neighborhoods in Brooklyn and, you know, a street in the middle of it, of course.
What kind of supervision will the school be providing during the 2.5 hour period? The 2 hour period, sorry.
We have multiple adults that supervise the students during this time, as they do inside as well.
Staley and Carmen?
We might
Oh.
say the same thing. I was just gonna say that I think you maybe were alluding to what I think is not a bad idea, which is limiting the amount of time that the permit runs for, like run it from April until June of 2025. And let's see how it goes. It sounds like everyone's got some legitimate questions about how well it will work. Why not? Why commit to a full year?
Well, that's the only time period of the permit right now, is those 2 months. That's the time period. And just to be clear, the Department of Transportation has approved this for this time period.
No, but the time period says it runs through 2026.
Oh, I thought it was
It's a
25.
year and a couple of months.
Mm,
Maybe that's a typo.
maybe it's a typo.
Yeah.
It's April 28th.
Is it through 26?
Yes.
Oh, it's through 26. Okay, I'm sorry.
So I would say I think it's something worth trying for until June of 2025, and let's see how it works. Good.
What's your first name? Robert. These permits drive me nuts because I don't care. No offense to principal, assistant principal, they all say the same thing. These are good kids. When I pass these streets and when I'm in a car and there's an open street and I'm watching these kids, and it's the teachers or parents that have to be in charge of the barricades going back and forth. A lot of times, no offense, because you haven't started this yet. I would see groups of them talking and nobody's moving the barricade or certain things and kids are going around the corner and it's to me, it's very scary. I'm glad I went to a school that had a gym and a place to burn off some energy. These things, I totally understand your part. I understand your part. I sympathize with both. But these are the one thing on this committee that scare me, and I don't scare easy. Because when we see those videos or hear stories, or like that.
It's very
school
upsetting. It is very upsetting.
It's frightening,
Mhm.
because these kids, not only do they, sometimes they're adventurous. Oh, I'm outside.
Oh, you know what I'm really scared about here, Josephine, and like I said, I know we're saying this was decided already. I don't even know how it's possible to decide something of this magnitude without consulting us on a higher level. I mean, saying that it spoke to us, I mean, I have a owner in the dealership here that didn't know about this until we received the letter. So, you know, and I'm scared about it for multiple reasons, because God forbid if something happens, everybody in this room knows the first thing that it's gonna be the body shop and the car dealership. It's gonna be everybody's fault of it. Meanwhile, we're here pleading with the community, saying from the beginning, this is not a good idea. I'm a neighborhood person. I live here my entire life. I live here now. I live across the street from Fort Hamilton High School, and I hear stories from my father constantly about that the annex that's across the street at Fort Hamilton High School. My grandfather agreed to the community board 30 years ago that it was gonna be a temporary thing while they put students in there, while they were renovating the school.
Correct.
That place has never been removed. It's still there to this day, and there is nobody that will ever listen to us because of it. Because we came to the community and they asked us for a favor at the time as the residents of the neighborhood, and we said, hey, for the community and for the school, do anything you need. And it's still standing there 30 years ago, and what was a trailer is now a brick building extension all the way down Shore Road Lane into Shore Road. So I know we're talking about 6 months and we're talking about a year, and then it'll be that businesses can't operate anymore and there's nothing you can do about it because nobody spoke up at the board meeting. And it sounds like our voice now is not even being heard because, you know, the DOT stamped the permit and somebody decided, hey, we're gonna do it because somebody put it in front of us. But this is dangerous.
We do have, I want to say we do have a role in commenting, and DOT has listened to our comments in the past, have adjusted things in some ways in the past. So we do have the ability to provide our feedback and our comments, which I think it's important. And that's why the community board does provide notice to all parties, to the block, to the businesses. You know, we do an extensive public outreach for this reason, because we want to hear from everyone.
And like I said,
we just have a couple other comments here. Dino, Doris, and then Larry. Dino first.
Yeah, so I mean, I work in Park Slope. They close a lot of streets down. They have people, at the end of each of the street, like, allowing vehicles in if they have to, like, oh, I live on this street, I have to park here, whatever. And they kind of like guide them through. Same thing with cyclists. I don't see why that can't be done here. Also, we're all in agreement that this area is exceptionally dangerous, and I think if that is indeed the case, like we should be focusing on making it better, improving it, and making it safer, so kids can be outside, play, walk around. In general, just pedestrians walking around and feeling safe in that area because it's a pretty problematic place.
Okay, Doris?
Doris. You're muted, Doris. You can unmute yourself.
Doris, you're still muted. I think they have to be removed.
I can make a
Sorry.
There we go.
I think in our comments, we should ask DOT for any traffic studies that they did, and traffic volumes, traffic conditions, and any outreach that they did in the area before they approved the permit. I think that should be in our comments.
Okay, Larry.
No, here,
We can hear you.
I can hear. No, as I was saying before, I mean, does it have to be on the street? Is there a possibility it could be a play area or a recess area on the roof?
No, the answer was no. The permit, the application and the permit, Larry, is for the complete closure of the entire roadway.
So is there some?
That's the application, that's the rule. The entire street has to be, it's not a half a street, it's the whole street, the entire street.
Did the
They have an indoor door.
or some on the roof?
So the bottom line answer is no. I'm sorry,
Also, I mean, I'm not gonna say something that's their building, that's there, everything, they have an indoor garage.
It doesn't
that-
belong to the school. We don't have access to the garage.
We do have access.
Their cars there.
I don't park my car there. It doesn't belong to the staff or the teachers that work there. We don't park our cars there. That belongs to the administrative building.
I just say that.
Yeah,
So-
no, it's a great,
It's a
believe me,
space.
if there was
It's
space on the roof,
space.
if there was space in the basement, if there was space anywhere, we wouldn't be going this route.
Yeah.
It's been thought of, I've been at the building for over 20 years. We've thought of every other option. We don't own the building either. The
What
New
is-
York City Department of Education does not own the building. It is a leased building. So what we're allowed to do in that building is very limited as well. So roof, garage, that's not school property and we can't.
so this is the annex to the main 104, PS 104. So they have a schoolyard. Have you ever used that schoolyard? Are you able to
Four
walk the
blocks away.
children?
If we were to walk children, if anybody knows kindergarten and first grade.
Okay, I just
It
wanted
takes
to.
like a half hour to get them to eat. So by the time you get them outside, if I had to walk them 4 blocks, I'd need all day just to get them there, let them play, walk them back. So
What is
that's-
the garage used for now, the one that's there? I know it's not yours, but
it belongs to the administrative
Administrative.
building.
I'm only asking because, I mean,
Well, I would assume
obviously
they
it
park
sounds
there.
much easier for the city to reach out to the city about something that the city is using rather than to use the street that
I
belongs
agree.
to residents and other businesses. I mean, so we'll rather inconvenience the neighborhood, the businesses, the residents, put the children at risk rather than telling the administrative building next door, you can't park your cars
It's
inside.
not
because we need the
conducive
garage."
for kids to play either. I
Neither
don't
is
know.
the street.
Yeah, well,
The
Neither is
street
the
now,
street.
the
That's,
the cars will be parked on the street too?
there's a lot, I have to just I'm gonna push back a little bit because the idea that this is, when the kids have to walk past the couches that are deposited there, there's a car that's been abandoned there for, I don't know if the captain can hear me, it's gotta be 9 months. The street itself and the illegally parked cars there are a danger to begin with. So that should be clear. That being said, if that were done, then it is a safe place. We know how to supervise our kids. We do it every day. I supervise 500 kids in a schoolyard in the other part of the building. So 60 kids in a small area. We know how to supervise the kids. That, you know, we did consult the businesses. Everybody can have their opinion, that's fine, but that's ours.
Yeah, and
Signatures from the local businesses of anybody that did agree to this?
I have the business cards with the names of the people that we spoke to. They gave us their name on the business cards and that.
Anyone who came, there's only one.
Was talking about closing half the street. It
And
never
that's
was
what we spoke
discussed.
to Open Streets about.
It never was discussed, the whole street. It was closed, spoken about closing
That's-
after our businesses
And that's what we
to Fifth
presented to
Avenue.
Open Streets.
So-
Sorry, just to be absolutely clear, what part of the street will be closed if this plan goes through?
the entire,
The
listen,
entire street, yeah.
the entire street has to be closed in an open street application.
Then we-
There is no way that you can close half a street.
I do not.
That is so terribly unsafe
We spoke
that
to Open Streets.
I
That's what
wouldn't
we
even know
spoke
how you could secure half a street. The Open Streets program closes the entire street.
But if you have
The rules of
somebody-
the street too is that there's not to be any vehicles parked on the street during an open street. And as much as we've done this before and we've spoken to principals and, you know, we had one open street on a school block with administrators, with parent volunteers, and we watched video of students going up a driveway. So it is a street. It has to be the entire street, blocked on both sides of the street. There has to be adequate, you know, buffer zones.
Agreed, but what we spoke to Open Streets about, they asked us to consult the two businesses, which we did, and we spoke to allowing the businesses access and having people there controlling that space.
Well,
That's what we did.
and to us was the entire street, and I have.
I would really like clarification from like the actual DOT approval for this, because if it is the case that they are okay allowing those two businesses to continue to have access to a street, right?
Up to my doors, and now you're telling me closing the whole street. I would never sign.
That is just so dangerous. It's just
I would
completely
never sign.
dangerous.
You're
Yeah.
saying people giving business cards with a green upon it?
Yeah.
Tell them exactly what was
That,
said.
I just told them
Yeah.
exactly what was said, and what
So-
I said is exactly what we
Yeah.
said.
Jack, I think we'll
Saying-
turn it back.
Yeah.
Right.
Records that way.
Jack, so Al,
Just ask
Yeah.
a quick question, I'm sorry to
Sure.
interrupt anybody else, just so I have 274 employees as of this morning, so if you walked into any one of our 6 businesses that operate in the block and you just asked anybody for their business card, they could sign off on something that would change our entire future on the block. I mean, like I said, the property that was just acquired by us is millions of dollars that was on the block. I mean, did anybody take into question what the value of that building would become now if this ever becomes permanent or short-term temporary, of what's gonna happen to our businesses? You know,
Right, I
I mean, listen, it has to be an open conversation. It can't just be that we walked into the building and got a business card from somebody that approved this to shut down an entire street of businesses.
Right, and
I knew when it was brought to my attention that it was not gonna happen because I knew that the captain of the 6-8 was never going to allow cars to pull off in the opposite direction, because even if you did shut half the block, in order for us to utilize the other half, we would have to pull in the opposite direction onto Fourth Avenue without an active traffic light there, and I knew the 6-8 precinct was never going to allow that. So I knew that it was not true that it would only be half the block. So like I said, we were asking questions before it, and then we found out obviously by you that this was gonna be held here, and we.
And certainly all the businesses here could also reach out to the Department of Transportation directly. There's an email address that you can also provide your feedback to. Jack, do you still want to take questions? I know we still have another application.
Okay, one more from Carmen, I think.
Carmen?
Okay, when these applications go in, she was told one thing, they were told this information here. Does anybody from that department actually go to that street and see what businesses are there?
Yeah.
How it operates?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know how they work.
I just want to make a
Jack-
comment.
Jack-
on-
Yeah, okay, thank you, everyone.
Somebody
So
else
I think
spoke about
really
it.
the
I'll
only
hear it.
reasonable thing that we can do is ask the DOT for actual information on what they have actually approved and the timeline for actual approval, right? We've had multiple different suggestions during this call around shortening time, seeing how things run, about the half block thing, the full block thing, about the traffic redirection, coordination with 68. It's not really clear to me exactly what has been discussed and what has been approved by DOT, and that's really what's causing all the confusion in the comments here, right? Like, can we comment back to the DOT to actually provide us further information?
Jack, the letter is clear. The letter says the block of 89th Street between 4th and 5th Avenue was approved. You
So
know?
just ask, Justin, if you didn't send us for tonight, who was gonna notify us? Like, were we just gonna walk outside of our business one day and find signs that said we can't park
Well,
there?
part of the process is the public review
This is
process.
part
This
of-
is part of the
right.
process.
I got
Yeah.
you, but you're also saying that, you know, you
It's
have the letter
approved.
and the letter is approved for
Approved, so
what
it's
it is.
essentially
So-
Right, approve, and then we're able to
Yeah.
comment.
No, that's why I'm asking,
Right.
of course, because again, like I said, it's.
Understood. We heard you. So I think really in all consciousness, like what we have to comment back is that this plan doesn't really meet the favor of the community, right? Like that's basically what I've been hearing the entire night.
Yeah, just, again, just
Correct.
point, it's just, it's basically.
I agree with you,
it's
Jack.
already-
That's
it's
correct.
Already done, considering like we're waiting for a no parking sign on the block to be, you know, posted from the city for 2 years that nobody has taken into account, but shutting down an entire block because it's something that helps the city, you know, helps the school or anything else happened overnight, it seems, without anything from any of us. I mean, so the back of a business card was enough to shut down an entire city block, just doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't add up. Not the way things occur in the city. I mean, we've built multiple buildings, renovated buildings, worked with the DOB on a million different things. I've never seen anything move fast in New York City, but it seems shutting down an entire city block in Brooklyn happened overnight from a business card being
I
handed
just
over.
want to point out, you keep acting like I walked into a business and stole a business card and submitted it.
No,
That's
not-
not what
not
happened.
at all.
We definitely had conversations.
No,
So
I'm not,
I
I'm
don't,
not
I
arguing that,
don't
I'm
want
arguing
that,
that.
you know, if we're gonna put it on the record, I mean, I want it to be clear. That's not what happened.
Understood, and again, not arguing with anybody in the room,
You know.
simply stating that as the general manager that's responsible for all of the businesses, as the business owner and partner of the dealership and the businesses that operate in the neighborhood, I mean, Bill, were you contacted? Okay, so as the person that's responsible for it, so that's why I said, like, I have 274 employees. Could we have just walked in and asked anybody if it's okay if we close down the street? You know, it doesn't matter who was spoken to, people that are directly responsible and in charge of the businesses, executive managers of the company. We're a large company. I mean, you had to speak to one of us. It couldn't just be that you spoke to anybody on the block. I mean, anybody that's walking around
No,
with a
we-
Bayward's t-shirt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jack, I'm gonna go back
Understood.
to you.
Thank you. Doris, you have one
Could
more.
we ask DOT if in any of their other applications for a school to have an open street, if they were in a C8 commercial district? Because this is a highly dense commercial district.
Okay. We could do that. That could be part of the comments that we,
I
I can ask
think
that
it's-
question tomorrow and have it for the board.
I don't even think they looked at the zoning.
Okay, Jack, so we need a recommendation. Oh, there's someone with their hand raised. Did you want to call for another member of the public, Jack?
No. Okay, so what is the recommendation from the board? Do we have a suggestion for a recommendation
I
here?
was just gonna say, it sounds like we have maybe 3 or 4 specific things that we could vote on. Does that sound right to everybody?
No,
Right?
what are 3 or 4 specific?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe we need to, it sounds like there are a couple different ideas floating around and maybe we should vote on whether we're gonna do each one or not. So
Jack, my
I
vote
give
is
that I leave that to Jack, yeah.
Jack.
Yeah, I hear you, Joe.
Yeah, I'm voting against every aspect of it. That's my point of view.
Okay, understood.
Thank you.
So we need a motion.
So right now, I'm putting forward a motion to, how do I phrase it? Not recommend moving forward with the DOT's plan, or not, or really kind of surfacing the public's viewpoint that this plan would not be useful to the community, even though it is, you know, by definition detrimental to the students that are at the school. Which, to be honest, like I've been trying to really think about that because, you know, my own point of view is that, you know, locking students up for even more hours a day is quite detrimental to the development, and it's quite disappointing overall that we are, you know, in this kind of situation, basically for every single school where we had this kind of conversation. So anyway, so that being said, that's basically on the floor to assess a disapproval here. Now, I'm open to amendments for suggestions for additional things that we can ask DOT to take a look at. Given that they've already approved it, I'm not sure exactly what would actually happen with those, but I'm open to that. Steele, you have your hand up.
I think I would make a motion that we could approve it for a shorter time period, a trial period of until June of 2025.
They're equally at risk of getting injured in that short period. Even, you know,
It sounds like a very dangerous idea to
It's a
gamble with the
danger-
lives of children, in my
Ju-
opinion.
Just, I'm just saying as an,
Yeah,
as an
as an
alternative
alternative, I understand. But
to.
if no one was injured in that 2-month period, does that mean no one's gonna be injured in a 12-month period? I mean, we could get.
I think that's just the not not ingenious slippery slope argument there. Like that's not really relevant. I think like it does matter, but you have to think about the benefit as well as a downside here. Like the short, I don't think we can actually even approve it for a trial period though. That's also another thing, right? Like the application
us.
itself is for like a year.
Mr. Zhang, I'm at the request of everybody here that you're actually gonna put in a protest as the community board to block this from happening. I mean,
No,
to let it move forward for anything. I don't know. I've never been to one of these before in my life, but I would imagine that the board and everybody in here, the only thing that has been presented so far that is positive is that children are gonna go outside and get fresh air. Everybody in the room is in support of that. We're all in support of that, but it's under the measures that's happening, under the condition it's happening. Everybody in the room seems to be under the same page right now that it's not a good idea under the parameters that we're trying. And gambling with that for 60 days to decide whether or not it's gonna happen for a year, 2 years, or 3 years just doesn't sound like a good idea. It sounds like if everybody in the room would have been consulted properly prior under all circumstances, that the block would be shut down completely for all businesses and for the neighborhood. Everybody in the room said that they would vote against.
Let's be clear here. There's one huge, constituent that has not been consulted here: the actual kids themselves. So, like, the actual beneficiaries are
And the
not here.
parents,
And the parents as well.
here, right?
Like, I
I'd be
don't know
concerned.
what they think of it, right? Like, I would love to know if they are themselves in favor, especially the
You
parents.
can outline
right?
concerns.
Jack, I have
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
I asked
I
if
have
they wanted
spoken,
dinner or
Jack.
they wanted pancakes. So asking 4-year-olds or 3-year-olds if they want to go outside and play in the street
They're gonna
doesn't
say
sound
yes.
like a real
I do have
suggestion
a
here.
school leadership team, so it wasn't a unilateral decision. It was made with my PTA and the school leadership team. And the plan was developed with that. So it was a community from the perspective of parents as well.
Jack?
I think, Steve, you were trying to make a point, and then Doris, I see your hand as well. Steve?
Yeah, I think that what we have to do here is recognize that the significant dangers outweigh the proposed or the expected benefits from putting the children out there. And I think that under those circumstances, that it should be denied just outright. And I'm not, and this is not saying that I understand the school's problem, right? But I don't think that the school's problem can become the problem of the people on that block who are there right now. And so I think that, and I do seriously believe that the dangers far outweigh the benefits.
Thank you, Steve. Doris, one last comment.
Okay, want to reinforce Jack's motion and Steve's comments. And I would say, we also want to know what studies the DOT did at this site and if they have ever granted an open street in a C8 district.
That could be as part of the comments.
Yes, I know. I just want that to be part
We
of our
could list,
comments.
we could list all the comments.
Right.
Okay. So I'll amend the motion on the floor to say just that. Effectively state the disapproval from so just to be clear to the members of the public here, like the community board only plays an advisory role. There's no like approval role for the community board. But we are expressing disapproval on behalf of the community, along with the comments that have been made tonight, regarding the commercial district, the fullness of the street and closing off the business for 2 hours at a time would be detrimental. The amount of car traffic, including any kind of traffic disruptions, and such comments. So I think we'll summarize that and we'll circulate that after the call. But that's the motion I have on the floor. Okay. All in favor of that motion, please raise your hand.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Joe, I assume you're in favor. Do you want to?
Joe,
your
how do you vote?
Joe already said he's against it.
Yeah.
What is this for or against?
Against.
This is for, yeah. Okay.
Is against, I'm in.
8. All right, so it's 8 voting for the motion. Opposed?
Opposed?
1 opposed.
I see 2 opposed.
2? Where?
Dino's on the screen.
Oh,
and
I'm
Staley.
sorry, Dino. I'm like looking at both screens. Two opposed.
Okay. Any abstentions or recusals?
Could we I just want to hear it again to make sure that we're saying it the right way.
Right.
Motion is to disapprove.
To approve significant dangers that were mentioned, the commercial district, the closing off of business, the C8 district, the, vehicular traffic, curb cuts, everything that was mentioned in the
And
just one closing comment. Sorry, go ahead, Doris. I just have one
well,
more
I just
comment.
want to reinforce one of the things. Steve consistently mentions the dangers of the site, and we have to reinforce that this is a dangerous site.
Well, to that extent, like we do need data from DOT. Like you mentioned at the very beginning of this part of the conversation about traffic studies. Like it would be good when we get in future approvals from for you, Josephine, right, from DOT, when they do approvals, like what kind of actual studies and discussions that they've had that led to the approvals or disapprovals of these.
Right. We could certainly do that. We can ask DOT to provide. I'll see if we could get that before the board meeting on Monday, so we could report to the full committee. We'll report to you. We'll ask that from DOT. I could do it tomorrow.
If it's okay if I make one more comment. So I think that what I'm hearing is I think we don't have enough. I really don't think we have enough information to disapprove this outright, right? As somebody pointed out, I forget who, we haven't really had an opportunity for parents to speak. We're awaiting information from DOT. The reason I'm opposed to Jack's motion is not because I necessarily agree or disagree with it. I just don't think we're in a position to say we disapprove of it tonight.
Okay, no, we appreciate that, but we do have a limited time period, unfortunately, to give it. So we'll get as much information as we can by the board meeting on Monday.
I admire that you said you had meetings and your side was prepared. I feel like you guys were prepared, you know what you wanted, and they were completely blindsided. And that's where we have to like sit here and really hear both sides. And I, like I said, I totally understand going outside, and I totally understand you're running a business, you don't want to have to be aware of like kids walking by or going in and jobs are hard and life, it's not easy. I admire business people, I admire educators, but this is one dangerous situation for all of us. Because kids don't always want what it is. And we've seen it, and we've seen it from other people, and I've seen it in just in passing and seeing the kids and watch one kid just wander off and I'm like, no.
All right, we have to move on. Thanks, Carmen.
Thank you, Carmen. We will be presenting this at the following
board.
board meeting on Monday. You mentioned PTA representatives you've discussed with those. I would encourage you forwarding that meeting to them so they would have a voice on that, because we kind of missed that voice today. Okay.
All right, thank you. Okay, so the next application is an open street application for 3rd Avenue Summer Stroll. The merchants of 3rd Avenue have applied to the Department of Transportation for a full street closure of 3rd Avenue from 82nd Street to 68th Street from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. on the dates of Friday, July 25th and Friday, August 8th. On the dates of Friday, July 18th and Friday, August 1st, the street closure is for 3rd Avenue from 82nd Street to Marine Avenue. I'm sorry, could we'll move to the next agenda item? Okay. Yeah. I'll send that to yes, very good. You all signed in, so I'll send that out. Okay, thank you. On the dates of Friday, July 18th. Oh, okay, sure. Okay, thank you. On the dates of Friday, July 18th and Friday, August 1st, the street closure is for 3rd Avenue from 82nd Street to Marine Avenues. The 3rd Avenue summer strolls were approved last year with some stipulations that are on the screen. I know that the reps from 3rd Avenue have been here very patiently. James Vavis, who is the new president of the 3rd Avenue merchants, the merchants of 3rd Avenue, and Chip Cafaro, who were here. So I guess I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
Thank you, Josephine. Appreciate the opportunity, and thank you to the committee for hearing us out this evening. Really not much to share other than we've applied for our applications for the two separate applications for the north side of Third Avenue between 82nd Street to 67th, and then the south side from 82nd Street to Marine Avenue, to do two strolls on alternating weekends in the summer. Josephine read the dates to you. It's basically the avenue of Third Avenue is closed, but the side streets remain open. It's an opportunity for the community to come out to experience the restaurants, the shops, but also the arts and crafts. We have some musicians that come out, artists that come out and do some cultural events as well on the avenue. The idea behind it is just to have an opportunity for the community to come out and enjoy the nice weather. Hopefully it doesn't rain like it did on us in the last year, but that's pretty much the extent of it. It's not vendors and salespeople like the Third Avenue Festival is, which is a totally different event. This is a community-based event where our merchants and participants don't pay to participate. They just fill out an application and come out and share. It's more of a cultural event, an art event, along with food as well. But if the committee has any questions, I'm happy to answer any, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, James. All right. Any comments from the committee? Okay. What has been the feedback to the summer strolls in years past?
I'm sorry, was that question to me?
Yeah.
I didn't hear the question. Could you repeat
What has
it?
been the feedback and I guess you mentioned it being a culture event, like the positive impact it's had on a community in years past?
We've received tremendous positive feedback. The community tends to come out, enjoy it. It has a very different vibe than the Third Avenue Festival, which is more of an all-day event. This is more of an event that starts at 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it goes into the evening hours till about 10 o'clock. But it gives a more hometown vibe to it versus the festival, which is more of a citywide type event. But we've heard positive feedback when we've heard comments of, hey, could you do this a little bit better next time, or could you do that? We're always receptive to improving it and making it a better event. But I don't know that we've had any complaints to the community board or to 311 about the events.
Good to hear. Have you guys considered expanding beyond the 1 month span?
We have considered, in fact, the Department of Streets Permits, forgive me, Transportation. I'm new at this, but they've suggested that they've asked us to consider doing it 4 weeks from 67th all the way down to Marine, and do the whole event 4 times. And we've given some consideration to it. We believe that our merchants would prefer to keep it this way. And we feel that it gives a more hometown, because it's a short window and it tends to be kind of after work and people coming out with their families and enjoying the avenue. We tend to see that we get a better concentration when we have a limited 15 block, roughly 15 blocks from 82nd to 67th and 82nd to Marine. It gives a little bit of a better community atmosphere there. So we have explored it. At this moment, we don't want to do an entire avenue-wide event 4 times a year. It also requires a significant amount more sanitation, marshals, cleanup, manpower that we don't have the capacity for. So right now, we're not looking to do that.
All right. Any comments from the committee?
Okay.
Okay. I think we basically have a motion on the floor to approve this plan.
Okay.
All right. All in favor, please raise your hand.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What is it exactly again?
Yeah, so it's a motion to approve, and we have the standard list of steps that we do each year.
Yes,
All right,
yes.
so all in favor, everyone has their hands raised.
Okay. Any opposed? None. Okay. Any abstention, recusals? Also none. Great. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. I want to thank the committee and the community board for their support of this, and for the group that was before us to kind of wrap it up and wore you out. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Have a great night.
Okay.
Move we adjourn.
So Jack, we have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Are you sure you don't want to talk about the other two topics?
There were two other topics that we pushed off a little bit.
Okay, I withdraw my motion.
The first intro, we have time on. We don't, there's no real rush about that. We can all think about it. It was just thrown at us. I just want to clarify for the second item, there was a concern in the district office if we were going to receive a DOT sidewalk or roadway cafe, mostly the sidewalk, because I think that's the 30-day window. How to handle losing the ability to comment if we're not within the 30 days. And I don't think that's something we necessarily have to agree on, talk about right now, because our next meeting is within 30 days. So, I think we're okay. Could we administratively respond was the question that we wanted to ask the committee, as we did in the summer, should that event happen.
So I have two suggestions thinking about it since you raised it earlier. One, I believe there was a possibility to extend timelines beyond 30 days if we need more time. Correct me if I'm wrong, if that's not available to us for these kind of applications, but I believe like that does exist. And secondly, I know during the summer we don't meet in July and in August. But for these kind of things, like I think if we were to say yes with the standard stipulations, with the caveat that you send across these applications to us in our regular emails, right, and give us a week, and if there is a majority of the committee that disagrees with the plan, then I will convene a meeting to discuss. Or if the majority of the committee disagrees with the standard stipulations given a given application, we revert back with the decline as opposed to auto approve.
Yeah, no, that's good, because I don't really expect many more. We've had 12 today. I think we're only expecting another 2 or 3, honestly, that's the feedback I've heard. So I think we're going to be okay, but that's good. So we'll see how it goes. And I will send over, should I have a concern about timing, I'll, send it to the whole committee. But I guess we could leave it as it is now till we get to June. Hopefully we'll get through, because DOT is really pushing this along. They're really working hard. There've been some negative press, and they want to make sure that they get these processes as quickly as possible for the season, which begins already. Roadway begins April 1st. I mean, sidewalk is year round, but okay.
Joe, you had your hand. Did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I did. I just want to. I missed the vote, the first vote on Muscles and More. Did that pass?
Yes.
Yes, that passed.
Yes, it did.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I say something about the muscles and nothing? Like you, one Saturday I'm home, and all of a sudden this wretched music comes loud, and I didn't know there was a neighbor on 81st. It was bad. It was.
Oh, I didn't know.
And it was loud.
You never told me before. I mean, you can always call the office.
I had mentioned the other thing though, the band. There was definitely.
So the band you mentioned.
Right, he's denying it.
I thought when I walked over and I saw that it was right in front, I thought he had a sound permit. Right. So I didn't say it. And he did finish at a good time, but it was just.
Well, look, you absolutely need a sound permit for amplified sound.
Well, it's like once a month.
Well, we will provide that. Yeah.
I was gonna say exactly the same thing, actually, and I hate to like revisit something. I'm not sure if everyone on the Zoom call caught that entire quick conversation about the sound permit.
Yeah.
I was actually very bothered by his attitude when he was confronted about that.
Yeah.
So he was told by Josephine that he's required to have a sound permit. Our standard stipulations say that he's required to have a sound permit.
Right.
And his answer was, I'm not going to get a sound permit, was essentially his answer. His answer was, I'll do it because I make the community happy.
Right.
And if no one complains, I'm going to continue doing it. He did not commit to getting a sound permit.
And I tried.
In fact, he was a little defensive and combative when confronted about having a sound permit. So that's the reason I voted against his sidewalk cafe, because I think I don't think we can have that sort of attitude from our applicants to blatantly say that our stipulations don't matter and the laws of the city don't matter.
That bothered me a lot.
Yeah.
Well,
because I was trying to save him, because now
Yeah.
come Saturday, that Saturday, and they have music like that, you don't have a sound permit? Okay, just, here's my call.
Well, now it would be in the stipulations.
Yeah.
And I agree with
Yeah.
you. I agree with all of you.
Well, to be
Because you
honest,
need a sound
I-
permit. That's the bottom line. So he has to apply. He has to apply for it.
Yeah. Well, I'm a little worried because like I didn't quite get the defensive nature of the responses, and like that's quite a bit worrying to me. I think I'll
It's
make sure
hard
to
because
write it.
yeah.
Apologies. Yeah, I'll make sure to write it in the report itself. But I think we should make this a point of discussion in the larger board meeting and make this like very clear that if the applicant who's not here right now, which is why I don't want to re-bring up the motion, right? If he's quite lackadaisical in refusing to get a sound permit, even basically we were trying to provide a service to him to say, hey, like we think you need to look into this, right? Where he was quite defensive there, but we'll bring it up in a board meeting.
Okay.
I also want to say he could have been defensive. We don't know what kind of day he had. We don't know, what led up to that. I mean, just to judge someone by, how they responded, you don't know what their character is like. I wouldn't take it so personal.
Yeah.
But he needs
I would also like to make a comment. Those of you who are near there and see this going on, make a 311 call.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
Because there were no 311. That was the other thing too. There was no 311 calls for noise.
Oh, he's outside, he's loud.
Yeah.
He got permit, but.
I mean, there was one for noise in 5 years. So that's, that's why there was no indication too, but I'm glad that you brought it up. So he has to get.
You know what it is? He does it. He feels that everybody likes it and doesn't recognize that it's illegal. That's not the way you make it determined.
We have it, not, I don't want to.
So, I think we're on the same page, and just in the interest of time, I would like to move on. So standard stipulations, Josephine, it seems like we don't really need to actively do anything there. It doesn't seem like we're expecting anything. But if that's not the case, we'll revisit in our June meeting to discuss. So please raise that in that meeting when that is appropriate. On the e-bikes, I would say let's spend another 5 minutes discussing it, take it away, think about it on our own side. In the next meeting, we can decide how we want to move forward. And basically our options are to support it or not support it, right? If you think about those two basic lanes. So with that, I'll open up for discussion maybe for another 5 minutes or so around what we generally think about that.
Well, I was gonna go after him the last time. I just wrote a bunch of things. It's like when I see people on e-bikes now, there's times I wish I could just see somebody strolling along, keeping, stopping at a light, not being on the sidewalk. I'm seeing them on the highway scaring people because the minute somebody on the highway or bridge sees them, it's like all of a sudden everybody has to slow down because they don't know who's going to zigzag. No, but they're not wearing helmets. I've seen 4 kids on a bike, and that scares me because my mother was an emergency room nurse, and I keep thinking they hit a pothole or something. The staff that's in hospital, that night they're probably gonna have to spend, stay overtime. And a lot of times they'll say, oh, well, they're targeting certain groups. And from watching the news and having friends in the media, there's certain groups sometimes are immigrant or minority delivery people. But I see them following the rules sometimes better than just somebody leisurely running lights and stuff. Because this is their livelihood. They're doing this for pay. But the ones that scare me are the ones that I went to the dog park near the Verrazano today for the first time. And there were 2 guys on each bike right behind myself and a friend of mine speaking in Spanish saying, oh, they're alone. And if I wasn't Spanish speaking, I knew what they were up to. So I turned around and started yelling at them and they took off. But I knew they were planning on robbing us. And I kept thinking to myself, this is a park. They had easy way in, easy way out. And the only identification I would have had for them was what they were wearing. And yes, it seems minor, a little license plate or something. But the person getting hit, knocked down, robbed, dragged, hurt, has to have some kind of way to identify them. If they can't, maybe somebody else can, write a number down or something. It seems minor, it seems inconvenient, more work for other people. But this recklessness is I don't want to say I'm used to it or getting used to it. I don't like it. I really don't like it. Because I keep thinking they're shooting past a light here and cars are stopping. Who knows what's gonna happen the next corner or the corner after that? It's like they open this door and it's their own bad behavior that we're having these discussions.
Yeah, I had a couple of comments myself on this. So, someone mentioned that mopeds exist today on the streets without licenses, even though they're required to have them. So, we had the 68 precinct captain on, but we didn't get to ask him this question. But like, where's enforcement, on that existing law, right? Like that's what I'm curious about. Secondly, with licenses on these on e-bikes, there's no test that you have to pass to ride e-bikes on the street. There's no test you have to pass to ride bikes on the street, and maybe that it needs to be a part of it. I'm not sure like full license of being able to ride these kind of motorized vehicles on the street is absolutely required, but I think something of that like, right, to make sure people actually know the rules of the road, right? I imagine for these e-bike riders, probably one of first few vehicles that they've had, right? They may not be familiar with the rules of the road. They're not required to be familiar with the rules of the road, right? Because there's no licensure. So just curious about like what people think about there. And then I just on the registration of the bikes, when I've lived abroad, like whenever I purchase a bike in Sweden, like I was required to register just the vehicle number, the bike identification number with like the local police department. Even just that, right? Because they try to source bikes back to you if you lose them and or it gets stolen. Like those kind of things I think are net positives to the community. So I think if they had sold it that way, that might be a little bit different. Those are just like my quick thoughts there. Chris, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Jack. It's weird. I don't really know what the intent of the licensure is. You know what I mean? It's if it's to be punitive, I'm not really in favor of it. But if it's for some sort of like you've bought an e-bike, you have to display this plate, and we'd like you to engage in some sort of bike safety. You know what I mean? Because I think, it's like I said, my dad saw this guy, his neighbor got sideswiped by a bike, and he wasn't angry at the bike rider. He was concerned for the bike rider's safety. The bike rider just drove off, and he didn't wait, for this motorist to like try to help him to see if he was hurt. It was the car had a huge dent in it, from what I understand. But that's neither here nor there. I mean, it's just I feel if we're talking about better streets and everything, and we're really talking about sharing those streets and like creating sort of an out of them so that everyone gets a little piece of it, there's got to be some sort of like thing
Yeah, I know. We need better
attached to it.
better internet. Chris,
Sorry.
oh, I think it's our internet connection is unstable. It just came up. So I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, Chris, you sound fine to me. I think it is the board's internet there.
It's the board, our internet. I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay. Any other comments? Yeah, Dina, go ahead.
I mean, this proposal, it's framed as a safety proposal, but really what it's going to do is going to dissuade people from biking in the first place. And right now, with the congestion that we're facing in general, we need people to be not driving, and getting around, investing in bike networks and making it normalizing biking and making it as accessible and as easy as possible is the way to do it. Now, all these things that everyone's complaining about are already illegal. This is an enforcement issue. You don't need to have your bicycle registered for there to be accountability for these things. The thing is that the NYPD just doesn't enforce traffic laws for the most part, very little. That's been my observation. There's been studies done. Also, 90% of all injuries, crashes, fatalities are caused by larger motorized vehicles like cars and trucks. Very few are actually from e-bikes or bicycles.
Thank you, Dina. Stephanie?
Yeah, just in terms of registration, it is, I think, beneficial to have a number. I don't know if there's this great opposition against a license plate, but even just to identify people, I mean, anyone in a motor vehicle, if there's an accident, if there's a problem, it doesn't have to always be punitive, but it's also a way of making people responsible. I mean, you're registering. And there is, I mean, it's too difficult to enforce everything, but if there is an issue, you can at least have another way of identifying an individual. And again, yes, to Dino's point that you don't always know that it's the bike owner who's on the bike, but we have that issue with cars as well.
Right.
Just my 2 cents, but thank you.
Yeah. I would imagine it makes
I wanna
enforcement
support
easier,
Stephanie.
right? It would make enforcement easier, especially with the cameras and stuff like that. If you can see exactly which license plate, like it's hard to identify, oh, the black bike that was,
Right.
20
exactly.
things like that. Joe?
Yeah, just want to remind everyone, NYPD is at its lowest level
Right.
of police officers ever in the history of New York City. And the reason that there is no enforcement is that there aren't that many police officers available. I know for a fact 68 precinct has to send police officers during certain events to different precincts. And that leaves us, very thin and very vulnerable. So I just want everyone to just keep that in mind. NYPD is at its lowest level of police officers in the history.
Dino, one last comment, and then we'll
Yeah,
adjourn.
I mean, that might be true, but that doesn't really explain the lack of enforcement. Like I've gone up to officers on the street multiple times, asking them to, oh, this car is parked in the bike lane illegally, in a protected bike lane on 4th Avenue. Why aren't you writing them up a ticket? They're sitting in their car on their phones doing essentially nothing. I don't know what they're doing. It's just most of the time they're not really doing anything, notable, and they could easily be, at least writing up some tickets. They say it's not my job. That's what I've been told. That's for the traffic officers, the people who walk the streets and write tickets. It's not, a regular NYPD officer.
It sounds to me like we should invite the precinct captain or precinct representative to the following meeting to really discuss this when we bring it up again in our April meeting. Josephine, can we do that?
I like that.
Good idea.
Just a quick comment. I mean, to Dino's point, I think it would be helpful, and to Jack's point, to know the difference between the law enforcement, the types of law enforcement, that if traffic violations are relegated only to traffic police, then it would be helpful to know that, because it is very frustrating. There are so many traffic violations, and that's why I'm on this committee. But thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. All right. With that, I think we'll adjourn. Thank you so much,
Yes.
everyone.
Thank you.